Hi there. A lot of people wonder what verbal abuse is, and it's bigger than simply cursing someone out or using four-letter words. I mean, cursing someone is condemning him or her as if you're their judge or even their God. And when someone does that, he or she believes that they're the superior one and has the right to cast judgment on you, your personhood, your actions in a demeaning or derogatory way. And the Bible speaks to this kind of person when Jesus says, if you are even angry with someone, you're subject to judgment. But if you call someone an idiot, you're in danger of being brought before the court. And if you curse someone, you're in danger of the fires of hell. Jesus doesn't want us to judge other people. Now, it may be helpful to make a distinction between an abusive incident and an abusive relationship. Since we're all sinners, guess what? We're all capable of some verbal abuse. James 3:2 says we all struggle in many ways. But James also cautions believers that our tongue can be misused as a weapon to hurt other people. He describes it this way. He says the tongue is restless and evil, full of deadly poison. Sometimes it praises God, and sometimes it curses those who've been made in the very image of God. And so blessings and cursings come pouring out of the same mouth. And surely, my brothers and sisters, this is not right. He also warns us that if we claim to be a Christian and don't control our tongue, we're lying to ourselves and to others. Therefore, if you're a Christian and you verbally curse someone out, what you should do is immediately recognize that you've crossed a line and use your tongue as a weapon. James clearly tells us it's not right. And Paul says, love does no harm. And once you've crossed that line, a sincere apology should be given. And you should repent before the Lord and work really hard to not talk that way again. However, when someone is verbally abusive again and again and again to you, then it's just not crossing the line and being a sinner. It's being an unrepentant sinner who refuses to submit themselves to God, which begs the question as to whether or not he or she is a believer at all. I want to give you a couple of examples of cursing kind of comments without using any four-letter words. And when these patterns are a regular part of a relationship, this is considered verbal abuse. Oh, you're never happy. You're just like your mother or father. You're making everything up. You love to blame other people, don't you? You're treating me like an idiot or a jerk or incompetent. You're sick. You're crazy. You're a foolish woman. You have the Jezebel spirit. You're not thinking right. You're a piece of work. You're high maintenance. You're too sensitive. No one else would ever be able to live with you. You're the one with the problem. You're a control freak. You can't forgive. But cursing, or judging and condemning, is not the only form of verbal abuse. The Bible, especially Proverbs, talks about slanderers, mockers, scoffers, liars, and revilers. Each of these descriptions has a slightly different definition, but they all cause damage by their words. And the psalmist cried out, your insults have broken my heart, and I am in despair. So I want to give you a couple other ways that your spouse may use his or her words to hurt you and undermine your confidence. First, by regularly questioning or challenging your thinking or decision making, as if you're not thinking correctly, you're not wise or biblical or making good decisions or choices. A raised eyebrow. Are you sure you want to do that? I'm not sure that's a good idea. And if they do that regularly, it starts to make you feel insecure. How about subtly undermining your authority or credibility? A person can do this with your children or with other people you both know. For example, well, mom said you can't watch TV, but you know mom. She's wrapped up pretty tight. From the kids' eyes, dad looks like the fun, nice, rational thinking dad, and you look like a control freak, a religious nutcase, or an emotional wreck. Or how about misrepresenting what you say to your children or to other people? For example, perhaps your husband tells the kids, well, mom says she doesn't want to be married to me anymore. She wants to be free to do what she wants. When what you actually said was, I can't stand you controlling my every decision and thought, and there's no room for me in this marriage. Or he says to you, you said you would co-sign on this loan, when what you actually said was, I'll think about co-signing on that loan. Or what if your spouse makes subtle jokes that hurt you and that are at your expense, and there's no apology, and the jokes continue because he enjoys getting a laugh at your expense? For example, making lewd remarks about the lack of sex life or your prudishness when watching something provocative on TV, or making sarcastic fun of your cooking in front of the kids or company, or making disparaging comments about a weakness you have, like, he can't fix anything around here to save his life, to incite laughter from other people. Another way verbal abuse has happened where someone privately maligns your character to other people, like you have no idea what I have to live with at home, and says this to your pastor or to your neighbor, or mommy's no fun, is she? Or mommy's mean and sick and needs help, trying to make your children feel scared of you. Shaming, guilt tripping, minimizing what's happened or your feelings. I can never do anything right in your eyes, can I? You're so negative, you're always critical of me. I try so hard and this is the thanks I get. Or when you set a boundary or say no. He looks wounded and crushed like you've done something wrong and says something like, wow, I thought you were different. You're so selfish and unloving. And lastly, veiled threats are verbal abuse. You'll be sorry. Don't cross me. Maybe there's nothing more said, but by the body language, you know it's a threat. In addition, there can be disrespectful nonverbal behavior, such as a pattern of falling asleep while you're talking to them, frowning, ignoring you, yawning, and sighing when you're trying to have an important conversation. Words impact us and sometimes can infect us with their poison. The Bible is very clear about the power of someone's words and warns us reckless words pierce like a sword, and life and death is in the power of the tongue. Therefore, if you're in a relationship with someone who is verbally abusing you, understand it's sinful. It is not in keeping with calling oneself a Christian. The Bible is opposed to it, and you need to do what you need to do to protect yourself against those kind of assaults where possible. Proverbs remind you, guard your heart above all else, for it is a wellspring of your life. Verbal abuse is real, and it damages not only a relationship, but your soul and your spirit. So, do what you can to get away from it. God bless.